Hey there, it's Bobby Legs, and welcome to another episode of Bobby Legs Loves Watches, and welcome to the 2023 State of the German Watch Collection. Now, if you've been following along, a few years ago, I discovered the wonderful world of German watches, and I started collecting them. I started collecting Sinns, Damaskos. I had a Kadoki, a Jaeger and Benzinger, and several other different German brands. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I got rid of all of them, and I started pursuing other brands and going down different avenues of watch collecting. Well, I'd like to report that several months ago, I rediscovered that love and passion for German watches, and I want to share what I've collected so far, and I want to show you the piece that really reignited that love for German watches again and got me back on the pace that I am now. So we'll take a look at what I got. We'll take a look at my future plans and future German watches that I would like to collect, and we'll take it from there. So let's flip the camera, watch this short little interlude, and get right to it.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, there was one watch that really got the German watch collecting juices flowing, inspired me to get back into it. And that was the recent release of the Sinn 356 Classique, the 25th anniversary of the line. And this release here, the Bi-Compacts release, with the anthracite dial and the silver subdials. This is a beautiful watch with the Sinn logo applied to it. I never really had an interest in the 356 series before. I thought it might be a little bit too small for my wrist. But when I saw this dial, I was immediately taken. This is limited to 500 pieces. And at 38.5, it's not that small. I mean, it fits really great. My biggest concern when I ordered it was the thickness of the watch. It's 15 millimeters, and even though that in general for a chrono, I don't find that thick. I just thought maybe with the proportion of the 38.5, it would just look like a kind of like a hockey puck on the wrist. And I thankfully, my fears weren't validated, and it looks great. I love the way it fits. It's very light on wrist. It's just a really handsome piece, and I'm very taken by it. It's one of my favorite pieces in the collection so far, and it really got me going with the rest of my collecting journey of the German watches. So let's set that aside over here. Just a great watch in general. Man, it's just I'm into chronos, and you're gonna see that now here that I've kind of have a chrono sub collection as well as a German sub collection. So now I have a German chrono sub collection. And the next piece I want to show is the Sinn 906. Now this is a vintage Sinn 903. Sorry, great watch. I had owned a more modern version of this model a few years ago. Loved it. Really harkens back to that Navitimer design. The whole story with Helmut Sinn bailing out Breitling at one point in the late 70s, I believe it was, during the quartz crisis. And in return, he had the rights to create the 903 in the likeness of the Navitimer, of one of his favorite models. And this one is very interesting in particular. It is a 24-hour hand and bezel action going on. So not the 12-hour where it hits the same time twice a day. It is a full 24 hours. And even more interesting is that you have the 12 o'clock here, but the 24-hour is here. And it took me a little while to figure it out that that's the way it goes. Now, I have no knowledge or understanding of why this is so. This is something I'm going to have to research for my own sake, just to know. But it's a very interesting way to read the time. Again, like the Navitimer, like the previous 903, it took me a long time to be able to read read the time on these things. The dial is so busy. And look, as a person who really appreciates legibility in my watches, the ease of telling the time, this is kind of like the opposite of that, and I'm totally fine with it. I totally am okay with that. Another cool thing about this particular one is that it's a manual chrono movement. This is the Lemania movement here, and as opposed to the other 903, which was a automatic, and that was fine too. But you save a little bit here on the thickness of it, so it's a pleasure to wear as well. And I have it paired up on this vegan racing rally strap, and I think it just looks so great. I love this watch as well. Just a nice little contrast here with these two. And the next watch, it's another Sinn chrono, is even great as an addition to this collection, because it is even a more of a contrast compared to these two pilot style, I would say, chrono watches. And that is the Sinn 144. This also harkens to another design, a Porsche design chronograph from the 1970s. So both of these two models heavily influenced by previous brands and previous models. And I love this one too. So very different than the Pilot. This is more has a tachymeter and also a pulsometer, which is actually very cool. I have it on a rubber strap. The bracelet on it is their typical H-link bracelet that you will see with Sinn models. And, I typically shy away from getting these watches, Sinns, on their bracelets. I'm not that crazy about them, although I think this one would look great on that H-link. However, a friend of mine had told me, who had owned this watch, said that the H-link, it fits in a certain way where the link rubs up against the inner part of the case and it will leave a mark, and that bothered him greatly. And I think that would bother me as well. So I have it on the rubber. I also have a leather strap for this. And again, the contrast between these three Sinn chronos is great. And I just love the fact that they're so very different wearing experiences. And and that's why I can handle having three Sinn chronos in the collection, right? Now, moving away from Sinn is another brand that I really enjoy owning and having, these pieces. And this is the Damasko, in particular the Damasko DK36. I got this I had this bun strap laying around, and I was like, let me give it a shot on this bun strap. And I think I'm a bun strap guy. I really enjoy this watch on the bun strap. It's going to be hard for me to put it on wrist like that, but I think it looks very, very good on the strap. And I think I'm going to wear it like this for a while now. This DK36 has the in-house, quote unquote, in-house movement from Damasko. I wanted to add Damasko back to the collection. And I wanted to make sure I got the Damasko. I mean, I feel like, to me, this is, if you're going to own a Damasko, right? Own it with the in-house movement. Now, the regular ETA movement that they use also, you're going to save a couple $100 for sure, no doubt. But I would wait for these to get into the secondary market, into pre-owned market, because you'll see prices come down on this one as well. So for me, that was the path I wanted to take. I wanted to own a Damasko, and I wanted to have it with the in-house movement. That was very, very important to me. And I love this watch. Very easy to read date and day on it. I love the highlighter yellow hand on this one. Again, very, very easy to read, and surely enjoy having this in the collection. Now, I picked up another Damasko recently, not planning necessarily to pick up another Damasko, but I saw one on eBay and it was on auction, and it was a good starting point. I figured, hey, why not take a shot at it at this price? And nobody else bid on it. And so I got lucky, I think, and coupled it with some a 10% off coupon and some eBay bucks that I had, or eBay points. And I got a really good deal on this one. And this is the DC 56. Now, I owned a version of this model a few years ago, the SI, the silicone. I think I had the silicone escapement and whatnot. And so it really improved its anti-magnetism. This one just has the Valjoux 7750 in this one, and I just like the way it looks. Again, hidden behind the minute hand is the Damasko logo, date and day, 3 registers for the chronograph, and just a very handsome looking chrono. And I got it paired up on the Damasko strap. This strap actually came in with this watch, but I wanted to switch it up. Yeah, just 2 great watches. Look, I know they look fairly similar, especially with the indices of the smaller numbers here, but that is okay. For me, it's a totally different wearing experience. And at the price point that I got this, like, it's just a no-brainer just to have this watch in my collection, as I feel. So so far, we've got 3 Sinn, 2 Damasko, and I have one other piece, another rebuy. I mean, I guess you can call this a rebuy, and technically maybe this is a rebuy, even though they're very different than the originals that I have, but same model, maybe different variation. And I picked up recently at the watch, not Watch Time, but the Wind Up Fair in New York City back in October. And this is the Heinrich Tucker. It's a dive watch. Now, Wolfgang, I didn't know Wolfgang from Heinrich was going to be at that show. And when I saw him, I was very excited to meet him. And personally, I had done a stream with him. I had reviewed the same watch a couple years ago. I had the same watch when it was a Kickstarter, and I gave it to a friend who really enjoyed the piece. And so, but I wanted to always get this one back, and I could never get, Wolfgang had moved on to different models and he's building his brand. And so, looking on the secondary for this piece, and this piece rarely comes up, even if at all. And I think it's because it's one of the more popular colors in this model line. And so when I saw Wolfgang there at the show, he had a new old stock and he was selling this, and I was like, I want it. I want this back. And I think he was a little surprised. I think he was hoping to have the model showcased for the rest of the weekend. This was a Friday, and he was there until Sunday. But I didn't want to let it go. And I love this watch. I think the dial is great. It's got a Celia 200 in it. For less than like $700, this is a really, really handsome watch. And I love the shark mesh bracelet. The clasp is great. Diver's extension, just a really great clasp, milled out clasp. Beautiful engraving in the back here of the watch. The knurl on the bezel is super interesting. You got this wave here to symbolize the wave of the ocean, and a really hefty knurl on there, and also on the crown. So just a really cool little German micro brand, if you will, to have in the collection as well. And Mrs. Legs, she has a Sinn 856. That's her watch. So we do have 4 Sinn in the house, along with the 2 Damasko now and the Heinrich. And look, I mean, I think down the road, what I'm looking for is to maybe add more dressier pieces, maybe move up in the luxury scale. I'm targeting Glashütte original, the panel reserve. I love that watch. Pricing in the secondary is coming down, but it's going to take me a little while to get there. Maybe at some point next year. I love the 70s chrono from Glashütte, but very, very pricey. It might be out of my range. Jaeger and Benzinger is always a possibility. Handsome dress pieces with incredible guilloche. A Benzinger, that Gap 1. I love that watch. However, past the price point, I'm trying to stay, if anything, under 10 grand price point with watches. Probably a lot less, but I really, life situation can't really justify paying or spending $10,000 on one singular piece. It just doesn't really make sense for me at this particular time. Not to say that will change or not change, but realistically, that's maybe not going to happen for a long time. Look, at one point, I would love to have a Longa 1. Again, do I have $30,000 to $40,000 to buy one singular piece? Probably not. May never happen. Never know. I mean, but most likely it'll never happen. So panel reserve, maybe a Jaeger and Benzer, which is more feasible. Dornbluth is always in the conversation for me. I like Cornwell. I think that's how I pronounce it. Cornwell is another small time independent in German watchmaking. Mule Glasuda, that SAR diver is a great piece. Probably could find good pricing on that on the secondary and eBay at some point. So that watch will always be available. So I'm not in a rush to get that. And perhaps a Sinn U50 diver. That would be another rebuy, but I really enjoy that piece as well. So maybe going to cool it a little while with the Sinns, although they make it really hard sometimes, especially when they do some of these limited releases. I just love Sinn. It's probably my favorite brand. So I can never. We'll have a really hard time saying no to Sinn in the future. Anyway, folks, thanks for sticking around and watching my State of the Collection 2023 for German watches. And let me know what you think. Please put a comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.